So I finally got a little extra time to work on some of my own books that I'm eventually going to send in to get graded. So I thought I would go ahead and start with my X-Men 4 and go ahead and record that process. Before we get going, just some initial thoughts. It's a fairly clean book. I don't feel a lot of surface grime, but definitely some room for improvement. The whites, especially here at the bottom, can be touched up. I can see quite a bit on that. The whites here at the top, can probably do a little bit about the yellow there. Not a whole lot of white on the back. I mean, it's for a Silver Age book. This is actually a pretty quick detailing. There's usually a lot more white overall, so this shouldn't be too bad. Some things that I am definitely a little concerned about. Missed staples here. The staples aren't right on the spine. Right? They're kind of behind the spine, and nothing to be done there. So that might tick against me a little bit, and that's just a factory defect sort of thing. I think this might be getting a little rust on the staple down here, and some of that looks like it got onto the paper. It's kind of too bad. There's not a whole lot of creases going on here. It's actually a fairly flat book. There's definitely some improvement that can be done over here on Mastermind. There was a pretty good view until the camera decided to go out of focus. There, yeah, that stuff's gonna press out, so that will get really flat. There on Magneto's armpit there will press out pretty nicely. The fingerprint, might be able to clean that up a little bit. But yeah, this is actually already in pretty good shape. But anything to help helps, right? So I'm gonna do what I can. So I'll go ahead and give it a surface clean and then a detailing, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like after that, and then after that we'll give it a press. All right, so let's get started. Kind of worried about this side over here. There's a small tear in the very, very small tear. All right, I ran out of disk space there, but what I was pointing out here is it's hard to see on camera, there's a bit of a tear here, so I want to be really careful when trying to touch up there. It's just kind of not worth it to put much pressure around there. Let's see what little bit we can get inside here. Just kind of following the letters, and this looks pretty okay. Just might pick up or clean up sort of any incidental junk. Get into nice man here. Some of the white stuff sometimes you take for granted, and you kind of forget that it's there and it's white. Little teeth here. Just you don't think of it. And eyes here, and more teeth there. Little bit of Quicksilver's hair. Kind of odd. Scarlet Witch isn't actually wearing red. She's not very scarlet in her first appearance. All right, so let's move on. Well, while we're in the lettering mood, and I got the right tool out for that, let's just go ahead and trace along all the little letters here. I don't want to give too much attention. We're just trying to pick up incidentals here just because it's so surrounded by dark ink. Of course, don't want to do too much erasing right on the dark ink, so just kind of lightly tracing over the letters. But they're pretty clean for the most part. I don't really see a whole lot of improvement to be had here, but I am seeing little things after I go over it, after the eraser goes over it. You can see like, oh yeah, there was a bit of a smudge there. Sometimes it's easiest to see the good that's done as you see it being done. Like you see the immediate, like it doesn't look bad, but after you give it a little bit of attention, you can see the difference. It's like, oh, it's a little dirtier than I thought it was. But there's definitely some improvements being had here. Like I said, this is already a pretty decent looking book. Let's see, while we're up here, we'll go ahead and take care of the numbering. And the Comic Code Authority. I got Angel's Wings. Well, yeah, definitely some good touch up there. All right, so let's just keep working counterclockwise around here. A little more Iceman. You can tell when you're starting to pick up stuff, the tip of the eraser starts getting hard. So you need to rub the crusty stuff off. Yeah, the hard eraser doesn't actually clean anything up. All right. Get the big parts of the weird bubble thing here. Get inside the get some of the details. All the little corners of the this little splash here. Yeah, it's looking good. Looking a lot cleaner. Alright, I'm going to do a little, so you have to be careful with things that aren't white, but yellow you can kind of get away with some light sort of detailing. And there's definitely some sort of visible stuff going on here, so I'm going to lightly go over the, and not putting very much pressure on here at all. Just whatever I can get up off the surface. A little bit stronger than just the pads. But can't give it too much attention or much pressure at all without really starting to pick up ink. And definitely don't want to fade it. I can see the lightest amount of ink that's on the tip of the eraser from doing that. So I gotta be real careful. But a little bit of light love isn't gonna harm anything. Looks pretty good. Go ahead and go to the back, and this has quite a bit. We can improve on here, I think, unless this is, yeah, this is all right. Just a little bit of a surface area here. And when we're working on the covers and doing this sort of detailing, got to be real careful. Look out for little tiny tears that are there, because if there's a tear there, it looks like there's a little one right here. There's a tear there. If I start putting some pressure around there, it's just gonna make things worse. So I gotta scope those out first. There's a lot of stuff I can clean up back here. This is gonna this tear here. Real careful. And then make sure I don't snag it, kind of go with the tear, not against it. It's about as risky as I'm wanting to go with that. Other than that, I think everything else on the bottom here is pretty good. Something I got to be real careful around corners too. It's very easy to kind of grab them as you're making your strokes. I can bunch it up, or I suppose it's possible to rip it. Let's see. So we do have another little tear here I got to be careful of. Kind of dance around that area lightly. Just kind of a lot of this discoloration on the back here is in the paper, not on the paper. So the surface problems are coming off, but there's some tanning here. It's exposed to light, or in a dirty bag, or a number of different, or just in a dirty environment that kind of got into the paper. number of things that could cause that. But if the paper itself is stained, it would take restoration to change that, but then it's restoration. And there's a difference between doing cleaning and detailing and restoration, which I'll probably do a video on sometime in the future, talking about the differences and whatnot. But once you've restored something, it's no longer original. You've added something to it. You're adding color, or you're adding paper to it. Maybe you have a book that's missing a page, so you find another copy and take the page out and replace it. Or there's ways to add, like if a chunk is taken out, there's delicate things you can do to add paper back, but then you've restored it, and it's not as valuable being restored. It looks better. It certainly looks better, but it's not the same. If you send it in for grading, they'll look to see if it's been restored, and you get a different qualification of grade. So, an actual 7.0 is not the same as a restored 7.0. You've restored it. You're cheating. You've done things to fix things. You've added things to the book. Whereas everything that I do, I'm only removing things from the book. Removing grime and dirt and whatnot. And pressing isn't adding anything to the book or really removing anything. It's just flattening it. So that doesn't count as restoration. Some people are okay with restoration, or having a book restored, or buying a book that's already been restored. Because again, it does help make it present better. It looks prettier. But to me, this is personal opinion, it takes away from it. I think it actually takes away from the book. It takes away the originality, and it feels like cheating. Your restored 7.0. The book isn't a 7.0. It's a 4.0, and you've added stuff on top of it. So it's not. To me, it's not the same. But for those that like it, and they just want a book that presents well, and that is a way that people go, and that's fine. It's just not for me, and not something I'm interested in ever doing, or learning how to do. It's just I don't think it's I don't think it's true to a book. So, all right, that was a pretty easy outside. We got some interior. Trying to get sold to sell shoes to people, be a shoe salesperson. All kinds of fun ads throughout the life of comics. What are some of your favorite ads? This is a discussion I've actually recently had with a couple of people, once on the Two-Headed Nerd podcast I've mentioned before. For me, man, I love those 90s ads in 90s books. Not because they're good, if anything, because they're bad. But those ads just embody. That's when I kind of grew up during the 90s. So remember them fondly, but '90s comic book ads really just embody the essence of the '90s decade as a whole. They really of the extreme sort of attitude, and it was a troubling time. It was a troubling time for a lot of things. For comics, it was a very troubling time, but some good stuff came out of it. Some fun stuff came out of it, we'll say. I don't know if it's good, but fun stuff came out of it. Yeah, you all know how much I love my '90s Venom. Love my '90s Venom. And it's not because it's good. It is not. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Okay, let's get inside this heel. So we got some little cards and things here. This is actually a breath of fresh air for a Silver Age book. It's usually the whole back is white. A bunch of little ads with a bunch of little white spots between them. This is one big ad that actually has a lot of color in it. All this yellow and all this black. Saving me a lot of time doing this on this one. Usually the worst thing about Silver Age books is the back. There's usually so much nothing, so much white. Get the big parts there. The yellow back here is actually pretty good. Some little white. Alright, touching these details here. What do you think? How many people do you think went for these ads? I know I did in was it a comic or a magazine? Selling, I think it was greeting cards or something. Like they gave you a booklet and you're supposed to go around and try to sell greeting cards to your neighbors or whatever, and you got points and you get like super soakers and stuff like that. I ordered the kit for that. Never did anything with it, but I ordered it. Seemed like a lot of work for a preteen, I guess. There are more important things to do. More important things to do than go to door and bug all my neighbors to buy some greeting cards. There are Ninja Turtle toys to be played with. And we'll finish up just by lightly going over the white letters up here. incidental, the little shavings and whatnot off. We're going to have to make sure we get all those off before we put in the press. Don't want them pressing into the book. Yeah. Looking a little bit sharper. Overall, pretty happy with that. So I'll leave it at that. I'm gonna press this, and then we'll call it ready to be sent in for grading. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything. Any questions on what I've done here, or think about the procedure, or where we go from here. Just let me know. All right, bye. This video was brought to you by Titan Comic Pressing. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Titan Comic Pressing LLC.